Chapter 10, Stop the Presses! Finally, the elementary century was finished and we were ready to print it. Mrs. Lilly told us we had all done a great job. Can I print out some extra copies so we can take the newspaper home and show it to our parents? Asked Andrea. Of course, said Mrs. Lilly. We'll print a copy for everyone in the class. Andrea hit the print button again, and it started printing a bunch of copies of the century. But you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who came walking into the classroom at that moment. It was Mr. Klutz. I just wanted to see how you kids were making out, he said. Ew, disgusting. We aren't making out, we all shouted. No, I mean, how is your newspaper coming along? Asked Mr. Klutz. Well, see for yourself, said Miss Lilly as she took a copy out of the printer and handed it to Mr. Klutz. As he read the front page of our paper, his eyes bugged out and his jaw dropped open and he was as white as a ghost. Are you okay, Mr. Klutz? I asked. Stop the presses, he yelled. Officer Spence was in jail? Mrs. Yonkers sets buildings on fire? Mr. Docker beats his wife? Mrs. Patty kills dogs? You can't print this stuff. Why not? Said Miss Lilly. Those are great human interest stories. But they're a bunch of lies, said Mr. Klutz, and he was really getting mad. Are you calling us liars? Asked Mrs. Lilly. Well, if the shoe fits, wear it, said Mr. Klutz. What do shoes have to do with any of this? I asked. But everybody ignored me. Where did you get this information? Demanded Mr. Klutz. I'm sorry, but we cannot reveal our sources, said Miss Lilly. Mr. Klutz turned to page 2 of our paper and let out a scream. I guess he must have read that story about himself and not wearing underwear. He was freaking out. I don't wear underpants? He asked. Everybody started giggling because Mr. Klutz just admitted out loud that he didn't wear underwear. How could you possibly know what I wear or don't wear under my clothes? He asked. We only print the facts, sir, said Mrs. Lilly. We had no proof that you do wear underwear, so we had no choice but to assume you do not. Well, that's ridiculous, said Mr. Klutz. I most certainly do wear underpants, and I can prove it. And with that, Mr. Klutz pulled down his pants. Ah! Miss Lilly screamed. Children, don't look! But we all looked anyway. Under his pants, Mr. Klutz was wearing pink boxer shorts with little red hearts on them. It was hilarious. You should have been there. Your underpants are adorable, Mr. Klutz, said Alexia. It was a real Kodak moment. So Andrea quickly picked up Miss Lilly's camera and snapped a picture of Mr. Klutz with his pants down. You bet we can use this in the next edition of the Elementary Century, said Andrea. There will be no new edition of the Elementary Century, Mr. Klutz shouted. This newspaper is... But he didn't get the chance to finish his sentence because you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who came running into the classroom at that very moment. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. But you have to read the next chapter, so na-na-na-na-boo-boo on you.